The LA Clippers just suffered their worst loss in postseason history. A 30-point drubbing at home that I was subject to on Wednesday night. Going to be talking about the catastrophe and who's to be held accountable on today's Locked On. Was that the last game we've ever played at that arena? Clippers?
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA. And in my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where a video of my experience at the Game 5 catastrophe will be on my channel. Fans' thoughts after the game were shared. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And I want you to just let it all out. Let it all out. And before we start letting it all out ourselves, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. All right, let's cut the chit-chat. We just got spanked, embarrassed, at home. I wouldn't even say one of, the most depressing home playoff game for the Clippers that I'd ever been to, and I've been to a lot. There was no life in that arena after the first quarter. I think, quite frankly, as bad as the players were, the fans should be ashamed. The ones that went to the game and didn't make maximum noise. I know you got to have something to cheer about, but I always believed you got to just give the boys everything you got in the playoffs to the last buzzer. Keep yelling. That's just me, though. But man, the guys, It's one thing to play badly, but it's another thing to look like it was just a regular season game. I know Kawhi's out, and I'll talk about that too. I know Kawhi's out, but this is do or die. Now you're putting the series in the hands of a Dallas team who has one home game to win to finally beat us. Will they squander that opportunity? I think it's going to take the Clippers to have to play amazing and Dallas to not play well, like to play horrifically. Quite frankly, the crowd's going to be so on top of the game. I mean, Luka, he finally had the game that people were expecting him to have and was seemingly due to be had. 35 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists for him on 14 for 26 shooting. Still didn't shoot well from 3, though, 2 for 8. But he pretty much got what he wanted in this game. I think before we can say anything about how good Dallas was in their own way, this is Locked On Clippers. We got to look at what we didn't do well enough, besides the obvious, which is Kawhi's not there. And Kawhi not being there finally caught up to us. It's just we were asking a lot, not really of Paul George, but mainly of James Harden. James Harden, who has had 2 spectacular games. I did not think as highly of the other 2 games as most people did. I thought he did some things that were very detrimental. But he gave us 2 great games. Paul George, he gave us 1 great game and 1 solid game. And then the other 2 not good enough. Just the same way I said about James. He needed to be great in this game. Game 5, Paul George. He was amazing in Game 5 against Utah. He was amazing in Game 5 against Phoenix. And that is what you do? James Harden shot 12 shots in this game. Paul George shot 13. James Harden and Paul George each got 33 minutes. Russell Westbrook shot 11 in 16. Does that say more about James and Paul or more about Russ? Now, the obvious answer to that is, well, the Mavs defense sags off Russ to get them to pass the ball to him and bait him to shoot. Of course, we all know this, but before we can start talking about Russ, Paul George. I don't want to hear about there wasn't enough space to operate. I don't think I haven't heard anyone use that yet. Paul George just continues to want to make the game extremely difficult. In the first half, I don't even remember how many shots he had, but he was so passive, just going through the motions. Just going through the motions. Defensively, he's not guarding elite players. He's guarding Derrick Jones Jr., right? And then you have Harden on PJ Washington. Terrence Mann was guarding Luka, and then Amir Coffey was guarding Kyrie. And then I remember sometimes Paul George would guard PJ. Sometimes Harden would guard Derrick Jones. And then, of course, Zoo matched up with Gafford. But they're not going to put Paul George in the action that much. So, essentially, it's all about help defense, communication, off-ball stuff. There wasn't any moment where I said, oh, look at that good. Actually, no. There were some good rotations in the first quarter that he made. Because the first time we guarded Luka in the pick and roll, Zubats hedged the screen, but he was in drop basically the whole game. And in that moment, I remember, I think Gafford caught the ball. It was either Lively or Gafford. And then Paul George stepped up and put a hand up and caused a miss. It might have been PJ Washington. But that was like the only time I remember saying Paul did anything good defensively, really. He didn't do much on that end. And then offensively, I want to check how many shot attempts he had in the first half. 6. This is basically do or die, bro. 6 shots? Are you insane? Are you insane? That's out of control. That's out of control. And then the second half, he starts getting on ball more because I was begging for it because I thought we were playing way too Harden-centric. And it was obvious that Harden was just having that game that we had been waiting for or been dreading, I guess you can say. So again, I'm not really going to be that harsh on James Harden because I knew this was coming at some point. However, it's the timeliness of it is not great. The problem I have with James, you know what? It's still not time to talk about James yet. It's time to talk about Paul. He comes out in the second half and just ball pounds away behind the 3. How often have we seen that this season? Making life extremely complicated. Gets the step and pulls it back. He is so much wrong with the modern hooper. All the talent in the world, a bigger bag than a past player would 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but he just overcomplicates his game entirely. He has no go-to move. He does way too much. He's 6'8", but wants to stand behind the three-point line where he starts his move all the time. It's so unbelievably frustrating. What happened to mid-post P? He forgot who that was? Ty Lue probably deserves a little accountability, but are you kidding me? Don't blame Ty Lue. We're going to get to him as well. But don't give these stars exit doors. He's making, excuses. $50 million. $50 million he's getting paid. And he goes on the pod and talks about I was locked in, this and that. It's like, what Paul George are you going to get? And if that's a second option on a championship team, I understand the position he's been put in without Kawhi. But he has those performances with Kawhi. You gave him a point guard. These guys were begging for a point guard. You got them a point guard. You got them another point guard because their other one wasn't good enough, apparently, and Russ. Got him Harden. He said after 2020, he wanted the ball more. Now he wants the ball less. I'm sorry, man. He needs it on a silver spoon. At this point, Paul George needs to be a third option at best to win a championship. The mentality, he looked checked out. Unacceptable in every single way. I have been criticized by listeners all year long for defending this guy and saying that he would show up in the postseason, and he has not, outside of 2 games. And I was being generous in the first game, but not really, because I just see the game differently than everyone. Everyone seems to think whatever your field goal percentage was, that's how good of a game you played. And that is not how basketball works in any way, shape, or form. I thought Paul George was fine in game 1. He was absolute dog poop in games 2, 3, and 5. Not quite good enough. Now let's get to James Harden. And we knew this game was coming. We just knew it. And the reason why I'm harping on the stars is because I've been dedicating these last couple episodes to the stars. Who gave us the win in game 4 mainly? The stars. 33 points apiece. Who was going to be relied on to win this game 5 without Kawhi? The stars. And who let us down the most in game 5? The stars. James Harden, the same stuff he was doing in games 2 and 3 by ball pounding way too much. And the only difference was that he missed his threes. But here's another thing. The Mavericks stuck true to their strategy of letting James Harden go downhill for the floater that he hasn't been hitting this season. And he missed his first 2 in the first quarter. And I don't remember if he ever shot it again after that. But it didn't seem like he had the same confidence in that after just the 0 for 2. And at times, it felt like he was hesitant to try to blow by his defender. And what really pissed me off was that we got Luka with the 2 quick fouls, and we just didn't try to go by him when he was switched on to James and Paul. And it's all on James and Paul. It's all on them for not trying to. There was sometimes where they would try to turn the corner and Luka would bump him. They wouldn't call a foul. Okay, turn direction and try to get around him again and see if he bumps again and they don't call a foul. Like, you got to put the pressure on the refs. You want to just keep bailing the defense out with threes? Fine, go ahead and brick your way out of the game like you did. And have done in many playoff games in the past, the 2 of them. When they have played badly in the playoffs, it's because, to me, they settle so much. James Harden, he could have gone to the step on Luka a lot, and he's just there paw pounding. And then there's going to be people saying, well, of course, when Russell Westbrook is out there clogging everything. All right, let's get into that. He had 16 minutes played, Russell Westbrook, 16 minutes, which is not even that much. But he definitely was, noticeable when he was in the game. And, of course, when he is in, the defense is going to sag off of him. But here's the issue. We did not see what happened with Russ and the Lakers. When you put the ball in a guy's hand that's a little bit more methodical, with the ball and likes to turn and face and survey the defense and play making that way, that Russ is off ball more. And if you're not particularly using him in the action, meaning like as a screen setter, then the biggest flaw in Russ's game is going to be magnified, which is that he cannot shoot the ball. And he takes the bait. And I'm going to still talk about Russ, but right now I'm just talking about the stars. There were so many times. It wasn't just Russ, by the way. There was times where Terrence Mann was open and James just wouldn't throw it up ahead. Just so long before he passed. It's like, dude, the ball movement, there's no ball movement at all. And if you're not going to get downhill, then there's not going to be any advantages created here. But coming up, the stars, they need more than one segment to be absolutely roasted. I mean, it was just unacceptable. Going to be talking more about Russell Westbrook as well. And, oh, God. Oh, God. Going to be talking about them more coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. The best place to get the best deals on last-minute tickets is Game Time. If the Clippers do force a Game 7 and you want to get a solid deal on a last-minute ticket, all you got to do is go to Game Time, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA. It makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Clippers losing this one by a score of 123-93. Our largest ever loss in a playoff game. What could be the last game the Clippers play at the Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena. And I realized that as the clock was ticking tonight, and I was there on Wednesday night, and I was there. And I was like, man, at the same time, that crowd was so dead compared to normal Clipper playoff games in the past. I'm ready for a new stadium because that stadium is just not great for sound in terms of a basketball game. You really need it to be really loud to really feel the effects. It's just the sound travels because there's 3 levels of suites. I can't wait for the Intuit Dome where the whole premise of the stadium is built around noise. But we'll have plenty all summer to talk about the Intuit Dome and fans and the wall and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I'm not quite done. You know what? It kind of ties into this new segment. So I'm talking about James Harden and Paul George, right? Let's talk about Russell Westbrook, because that was a talking point. He played 16 minutes, and they were not pretty. I think this is a major thing. If you were going to use Russell Westbrook mainly off the ball, then don't be surprised if the returns are not very good. Because Russell Westbrook playing, just sitting in the corner and this and that, teams are going to sag off and dare you to pass to him or shoot over the top. That shooting over the top was not working by Paul and James. It's either try to get into the teeth of the defense and then kick to him, or move it to him quick as the defense is loading up and let Russ attack the space and see if he can make a play from there. Or go allow him to set the screen. When you just use him as a spacer, when he can't really space, he gets the ball. He's trying to keep the defense honest. He shoots. Let's see how many threes he took tonight, though. 0 for 3. So, okay, he shouldn't have taken the third one. The first two, the second one I believe was a little rushed. But it just feels as though he's too shot happy in general. But when he's off the ball, especially too shot happy. Now, people might be wondering, well, what does on the ball do? Well, let me tell you this. Teams are going to still sag off. Teams are going to go under the screen. But what I've noticed since we got Russ is that when you do put him on the ball, it's not about Russ scoring. It's about Russ distributing and getting off-ball actions for other guys. And what I like about that is it begins the possession with a pass as opposed to James Harden comes up, asks for a screen, we get in a pick and roll, attacking a mismatch. Now, I'm not saying that Russ's style is more efficient, because it is not. James Harden is undoubtedly better right now. My point is, I think that when it goes badly with the James Harden style, it becomes very stagnant. I like that when Russ is at the controls, one thing I do like about that style is that it's mainly running Paul George and Norman Powell off-ball stuff, so you can get the defense moving just a little bit and you get a pass to start the possession. But the main thing with having a Russ-led lineup is defense leading to transition offense. And there was only a stretch in the second half where for a second we took James out and gave him a little bit more of an extended rest than we did in the first half. And Russ was just out of control and still bricking. And it didn't look any better. It didn't make my point any better. And then towards the end of the quarter, you started to see a little bit of the glimpses of what I'm talking about. Russ on the break, had that layup. But we went away from it right away in the beginning of the fourth quarter. So, here's the thing. My point I'm trying to make is, unless you give Russ, and this is definitely a flaw in Russ's game, unless you give him extremely favorable circumstances, which is put him on the controls on the ball, have him be a screener, have him, be a cutter off of Paul George and Kawhi. We don't have Kawhi. And then he plays hard defense and pushes the pace and gets to the rim, which you don't do enough of. But playing as an off-ball guy to a James Harden-led offense that's going to be a little bit slower, more methodical, more pick-and-roll centric, I don't think that's where you get the most out of him. And when you don't get the most out of him, you get the worst out of him. And it's very detrimental. And I think that's what we saw in this game. So I think Russ and Harden mixed with a big is completely worthless. We need to can that. We might even need to can Harden and Russ together for Game 6. But for sure, Harden, Russ with another big, it just does not work. There's just not enough space. And then if you put Russ on the ball, also another thing that makes it hard with Russ on the ball with James is that James doesn't offer any movement off the ball. His only value off the ball is as a spacer standing behind the three-point line. So they both have their off-ball deficiencies. And then one on ball is just nowhere near the other. The other one is on ball, but the thing is, it can be it's all dependent on if he's creating a ton of advantages. And if he's not, then it becomes really stagnant and hard to watch. So ultimately, though, I'm talking about the guards. Paul George still just doesn't get a pass. I think Amir Coffey, too. 3 after 3 that he got. And you could say he's much better in a transition system, playing faster. Absolutely, but there's still no excuse. 3 points on 1 for 6 shooting and 1 for 4 from 3. Russell Westbrook, 2 for 11. 2 for 11. He's shot so badly in this series. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 0 for 3 from 3. And look, people are going to say that I'm making excuses for Russ. I don't believe I'm making excuses for him. I'm acknowledging that he's having a terrible series. I just think that it's not optimal to use him in this way. And if people think, well, look, I see what you're saying, Darian, or Dime, whatever you call me, but giving the keys to Russ is not going to be a good team. Okay, then why is he on it? Because I get what your defense would be. Your defense would be we tried him in a backup role and it's not working out. But in my opinion, this has never been the best role for Russ. The best role for Russ is starting point guard around 2 stars, and you let him work through the mistakes. He's going to give you bad. He's going to give you good. You choose at the end of the game if you want him to close or not. That's it. But that's not what we went with. And now you have Russ in this role where he's eager to make an impact, and he's so this is what makes him it makes him amazing when it goes well, but it makes it tough when it doesn't, is he plays with this I'm trying to prove everyone wrong. You know, you think I can't shoot? Okay, watch me hit this 3. You think I'm washed? Let me get to the basket and dunk on you. But it often just ends up looking like he's trying so hard, but he's just completely out of control. And defensively, a couple of gambles by him and Mason Plumlee, who was so bad. I mean, just doing cardio. And he had a good stretch in Game 4, but he was hedging and recovering on the screens, and we were just getting burned. You know, Maxi Kleba was making every 3. He was 5 for 7 from 3, just absolutely killer. Because the Mavs, they were ice cold in the first quarter. They were 1 for 10 from 3. And I kept looking at the people next to me, and I was like, yeah, we're in trouble. If they start making threes, it just feels like their process was a lot better because Luka, obviously, he's going to create the advantages. And then Kyrie, we haven't really been able to stay in front of him that well in this series. But, man, they missed a lot of open shots, kept us in the game. But Amir Coffey, 1 for 6. And then, what's his name? Plumlee, also 1 for 6. How can Mason Plumlee be 1 for 6? 3 points, 5 rebounds, -10. Offers no defensive resistance at all. At one point, we went with Plumlee, PJ Tucker, and Russ. And funny enough, PJ Tucker actually showed some fight. But we're going with that lineup. That's I'm just throwing stuff to the wall and hoping it sticks kind of thing. So coming up, going to be talking more about Ty Lue and the decisions that were made, and then the only 2 players that I was satisfied with. And then I'm just going to let it all out for now. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you something about Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in this game. The best board game ever now can be played on the go on your mobile device. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini-games, like digging for a treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right. Clippers losing 123-93. The Dallas fans that are watching this episode are probably disappointed that I've not said anything about what the Mavs did well and stuff. I mean, look, Dallas's defense was good. I mean, much improved, obviously, as we've been talking about in this series. Thought they did a good job of collapsing the paint and taking away the rim looks for us, which caused us to shoot our threes. And they weren't going in at all. 9 for 35 from the field for us from 3. 38% from the field overall. So 38 from the field, 26 from 3. We shot one more free throw than Dallas. We shot 21. They shot 20. We turned the ball over 15 times, which is definitely too much. 4 of those from James Harden. How many for Russ? Just 1 for Russ. 3 from Paul George. So 7 out of the 15 from the 2 stars. Ty Lue, here's what I have to say about that for him. I've been saying Tice over Plumlee all series long. I think I'm not saying Tice is going to be the difference between us losing by 30 and then winning a game. But I think when we had our best stretch of the season, Daniel Tice was getting minutes, not Mason Plumlee. Daniel Tice, for how much smaller he has still shown more resistance at the rim. He's shown a little bit more of an ability to stretch the floor just a bit. And he just plays harder. I think that's a big mistake all series long that we didn't really play him like that. I think Russell Westbrook being used in the way he's been used, I think that also falls on Ty Lue to a large degree. He took accountability after the game, but enough. I'm done with the words at this point. Ty Lue also had Terrence Mann and Ivica Zubac, the only two players that, in my opinion, came to play on the bench simultaneously on two separate occasions. Let's talk about Ivica Zubac. People are going to get mad at him for all the lobs. He had to step up on all those lobs. I really don't know what people want. And then when we started getting the low man help on those lobs, guys were open for three. At first, Dallas was missing. Then they started making, mainly with Maxi Kleber. That's the thing with Luka, right? It's hard to guard him. You put Zubac in the pick and roll, and we play drop coverage, and we do a pretty good job, but our defense isn't quite good enough that you can do what Minnesota does, which is Gobert and McDaniels will take those two players and fight through a screen and still, because Gobert can take away two at once, and then you can stay home on all the shooters, so you're essentially not gaining any advantage. We can't really do that. We still need to show a little bit of low man help because Zoo's got to show a little bit of help at the point of attack. And when that happens, someone's open for three, and Luka will always find the guy when he's in his bag in the pick and roll and getting in the paint, collapsing the defense, which he was doing in this game. And sometimes Terrence was in his face and he was just making great shots. That's what you thought was going to happen more in this series, but Terrence just put his hand up, forced him outside, and caused Luka to miss. And I will say this, even though he only made 2 threes, I think Luka's process in this game was a lot better too. He was trying to get more 2 feet in the paint, and he did. And a lot more mid-range, it felt like, as opposed to deep 2s and 3s. 14 for 26 for him. Yeah. Kyrie Irving, he didn't even have that great of a shooting game, 6 for 14, but his defense was impressive. He's been playing defense all series long. Playmaking, not bad at all either. Derek Lively's also been a problem. I said last game, if I were a kid, I would have played him more, and this game they did. 25 minutes. He had 12 points and 7 rebounds, and he was plus 24, which was the highest for any player in the whole game. But Zoo, my point about mentioning all that is that Zoo was getting us easy baskets throughout the game. He's our anchor on defense. He has to make up for a point of attack defense that's not great. But the thing is, I really do believe that the offense was more of a problem than the defense. Because in the first half, okay, Dallas had 56 points. A lot of that was in the second quarter. We went cold, and they got to start running a little bit. Zubac had 8 points in the first quarter. I mean, the guy, every single time we gave him the ball in the post, it felt like good things were happening, and we just completely abandoned it. There was one time where he got the ball. This was in the late second quarter. Got the ball. He passed it out to Norm. Norm attacked a closeout and scored. And then there was another time where he got an and one underneath underneath the basket. And then we just go away from it. Zoo had 15 points. 6 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, no blocks, just 1 turnover though, on 7 for 8 shooting in 26 minutes. I think Zoo's been our most consistent player throughout this series through 5 games, and been the guy that I've been most impressed, not even impressed with, but most pleased with. Terrence Mann, the 3 ball wasn't falling enough for him. Again, I think the pace that we played at does not favor him at all. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist on 5 for 10 shooting and 1 for 4 from 3. Playing better defense than basically anyone else on the team. Terrence, I think he's had a solid series, to be honest. I think the hesitancy from 3 has hurt. I think the Mavs have been living with him in that regard. But I think we would not really be that close without the job that Terrence has done on Luka. And, he had 7 points in the first quarter, but only 4 the rest of the game. A lot of that is because we are not. There was some times where he was open because the defense is loading up off of him, and we're not swinging the ball quick. And a lot of times it's James and Paul just not trusting their teammates. If you're going to just dance behind the 3-point line and shoot a bad shot, Like, then nothing is worse than that to me. Nothing. Swing the ball to these guys. Okay, they're not the best shooters in the world, and let them try to get downhill and maybe put the defense in rotation a bit. Make them go challenge them to play defense without fouling. Make them take a physical toll. Just standing around is like, that's not going to win championships at all. And if that's what we're striving towards, we're very far away from it. And I know Kawhi's not playing, but the process is just god-awful. Paul George and James Harden, like, it's not about missing shots. It's about what you're doing. It's about the way you're playing. It's not good enough at all. So Terrence Mann and Zoo, I give them a pass. I thought they played pretty well for all things considered. But, I was taking notes throughout the game. Let me just rapid fire give you everything I was saying. And I think that's all about what I had with Ty Lue. PJ Tucker, Plumlee, and Russ together is insane. Other than that, both teams switching 1 through 4. Maxi Kleber, when he was in that first half, you saw them doing the classic thing that they've been doing, where it's Kleber guarding Harden. You put it big in the pick and roll, they'll switch that, so you don't gain any advantage, and you're causing Harden to ball pound and play isolation. The Kleber 3 threes in the second quarter, I think that really changed the game. Along with a lot of Russ in the corner, a lot of Harden taking too long on ISOs, no Paul George looking to get the ball, and then the non-Zoo minutes weren't great in either half. But it's funny because throughout that, because Dallas was so cold in that first half, we were just trading baskets the whole time. But I thought their shot quality was a lot better than ours. Because as I mentioned, Luka, Kyrie, getting downhill, getting in the paint more, and their lob threat bigs, definitely a problem for us. Having those 2 vertical spacers, this was the first time we really felt that, in my opinion. Game 3 in this one, we really felt, Luka and Kyrie have lob threats now. And when you have to put 2 on the ball with Luka, and it's not like we were blitzing him fully in the first half, but when we were starting to, those other guys are going to be left open for 3. It's like you just got to pick your poison. And there were even times where Zubats was switched on to Luka, and it was a little bit more of what we used to see, where he kind of got cooked. So the Luka game where, Luka did whatever, whatever he wanted, and we couldn't stop it happen, and then it coincided with Paul George and James Harden playing really poorly. But that was about it. That was really about it. Paul George had 15 points. The one thing I'll give him is that he had 11 rebounds, but 4 assists, 3 turnovers, no steals, no blocks, 4 for 13. 13 shot attempts is disgraceful. 4 for 13, 2 for 6 from 3. All of it dancing behind the three-point line, not getting any easy baskets. No defense for it. He's got to play great in Game 6. And no, quite frankly, we have to win Game 6. But yeah, I guess you can't control your teammates, but he better play amazing in Game 6. And I bet you he does, but here's the thing. If Dallas just plays really well, there's not much we can do. Even if James and Paul play great, if Dallas plays great and starts making everything, without Kawhi, it just might be too tall of a task. And yeah, if you're wondering how I'm feeling about seeing Kawhi just sit there while our season looks like it's waning away, yeah, it's very frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. James Harden was 2 for 12, 7 points, 4 boards, 7 assists, 4 turnovers on 1 for 7 shooting from 3, only 2 free throw attempts. I got nothing to say about Harden in terms of me being super critical of him. I think I've been critical enough of the process of him in this series when we've lost. I'll let you guys take a shot at the stats. Norman Powell, not good enough. 5 for 12, not playing much defense, 14 points. It's not been great. I don't know. I think we still have a chance, but we'll do more. We'll do another episode before Game 6. But we got a chance, but it's gonna take a miracle. Just where was the pride? Do you even care? Oh, do they really care? Because that was just unacceptable in every way. No, I just feel bad for the fans, man. Another year, and we might be going out because our best player's not available. Should we bring him back for Game 6? I don't even think he'll be able to. I know Mavs fans didn't necessarily want to win like this. Some might say they don't care. I would want to win against the team with the, having all their guys. But you got to beat who's in front of you. And if Dallas is a serious team, they finish us off in 6 games. But we'll see. Let's see if this team has any fight left. I think they might. But here's the problem, guys. Let's say we find a way to win this series somehow. Look at what skin has been taken off of us for an OKC team that just swept. Just swept. Has been resting this whole time and they're young. It's just brutal. Hoping for the best, though. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more content where a video of my experience of the game will be out and fans' thoughts after the game. You won't want to miss that. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And we'll be back for another episode on Friday before the game. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.